You are listening to the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast, episode 74. This week on the show, you ever wonder what you should do in the off-season? Well, we cover a few items that should give you some tips on things that you can do to kill the time. All right, welcome to the 74th episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast, brought to you this week exclusively by Lifetime Decoys. Lifetime Decoys really has set the standard in decoy rigging equipment. They've got a patent-pending design that's using PVC-coated steel cables that prevents rust and corrosion and allows virtually no line memory, all while providing UV protection, strength, and durability. Unlike monofilament, steel cable doesn't coil up, doesn't tangle, and it never really gets wrapped up because of excessive line memory, which you see in so many other products. The swivels and the clips that they use are all really high quality stainless steel. They use aluminum ferrules, which they legitimately hydraulically press together for incredible strength. The materials they use combine to provide the strongest and longest lasting, most tangle-proof decoy rigging equipment on the market today. They're also the only manufacturer who offers a warranty for 3 years as well as a money-back satisfaction guarantee. So check out lifetimedecoys.com for all your decoy rigging needs. We'd also like to thank a couple other companies that have supported the show this week. 737 Duck and Goose Calls, Original Designs, American Craftsmanship, Precision Tuned, Superior Sound, and Unparalleled Service, and Big Al's Silhouette Decoys, quality silhouette decoys proudly made in the USA. Again, welcome to this is the 74th episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast, where your on-demand audio source for all things waterfowl and waterfowl hunting. Check us out at hpoutdoors.com, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, anywhere that you can find quality podcast content, you can find our show. You can check us out across all of the social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. If you're on Facebook, head over to the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast listeners group. You can talk with the listeners of the show, get some great information, ask questions, really great place to hang out. And you get a chance to talk to my co-host quite a bit, Dan Harushka. What's up, man?
There are so many birds in this area right now. It is just unbelievable. Every time I go to work, I drive past one of our local lakes here, and just the amount of divers and mallards, it's unreal. And I just wish I could have it all hunting season long, but for some reason it seems like they come back in very large groups, and that pretty much consumes my thoughts during the day.
Yeah, a lot of birds moving north right now, and showing up in our area too, which is it stinks to see it when it's not in season, but it's cool seeing birds in the area, which sometimes it's hard to not wish they're here all season long, but
yeah,
it's cool.
I'm really considering a longer lens for my camera. There's just so many opportunities that the 200 doesn't reach, and I think it's just a step I need to take. I think I need to be able to reach out there and hit some of these birds. How much
further can you buy? Would a doubler do it for you?
I don't know. I think the Tamron, like 150 to 600, like their Gen 2s are pretty solid. So good waterproofing or weatherproofing and whatnot. So I don't know. I feel like I need to get out there, get in the weeds, and, take some pictures of just straight duck nostrils. Like, that's what I want to do. Mm.
Well, I'll tell you, the doublers would be more cost effective, but the drawback is you lose 2 stops of light. So that kind of stinks.
Yeah.
But
yep.
I've used them, had some success, but yeah, it's not like you're shooting with a 800, 5.6 prime lens. Anyway,
Yeah, and especially up here, like our light is so bad. It's rare that we get a sunny day, so that factors into the extenders as well.
Yeah, sure. Couple things we wanted to talk about here before we get into the meat of the show. One, you may have noticed that we had a little bit different start to the show this week. As some may know and some may not, we've decided to take our show to the next level and pursue advertising opportunities for companies and things like that. And we've been fortunate enough to get a couple companies that like what we're doing and want to support us. So as you noticed this week, the show was brought to you exclusively by Lifetime Decoys. And then we've also had support from 737 Duck and Goose Calls and Big Al Silhouette Decoys. So as we move forward, you will hear us, bring a couple, bringing advertisements onto the show. Our goal here is to be able to generate revenue to provide better content, bottom line. So we appreciate you guys allowing us to do this and supporting us. And we also would ask you that you support the companies that support us. So, that's something that hopefully, we will be bringing more of, and that you guys will, show these companies that are backing us, the reach that our show has, and, all of the good stuff that comes with supporting this show. So we appreciate you all in advance for doing that.
Yes, sir. And I'm, on social media quite a bit, and I'm seeing a lot of duck depression posts and whatnot. So I think this is a good episode. Kind of most of the seasons are over. A lot of people are pounding snows right now. Our flyway isn't really superior in that department at all. So what are we doing to fill up our time? And what can you do to fill up your time? So that's what today's episode is going to cover.
Yep. And before we get into that, I got one more thing. Hopefully you've all seen it, but if you haven't, definitely head over to hpoutdoors.com and visit the store. We've launched some new hats that we're really pretty happy about and excited, and been moving a lot of them out the door. So if you'd like to show some HP pride, head over to the HPOWP.com website and get your hat, and we'll get one shipped out to you. So if you want to see them, you can also check them out all over Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that too. So, all right.
Yes, sir.
And hopefully we'll have some more merchandise to come, build that slowly as we go. All right. Let's talk a little bit about, this off-season to-do list. And I think most guys probably are guilty of putting that off. I mean, I bet you it's one of two ways most of the time. You're either the dude that season's over, you knock all this stuff out straight away, right? It's like the next weekend, everything gets done and you're squared away. Then there's other guys that wait till like the weekend before the next opener to get all squared away. I would imagine most people probably fall on one of those two things. Maybe there's guys that fall kind of in between there, but if you want to spread it out, or maybe there's some things we'll mention that you hadn't thought about, this could be just a way to, spread it out a little bit for you and maybe make the off season slightly more enjoyable, being that you can't actually hunt. But
what are you? What kind of guy are you?
Good question. Well, as of right now, I am currently a wait till the weekend before the opener guy, because I haven't touched my gun, I haven't touched my decoys, I haven't done anything. So
I feel like you're super organized, though. Like compared to me, you're super organized. And
yeah,
I'm kind of a.
My stuff's organized, no doubt. I mean, I know where everything is, but I mean, I haven't cleaned my gun, haven't cleaned up any decoys, haven't re-rigged decoys that have, had the weights break off them or whatever, just things that happen throughout the season. I haven't messed with any of that stuff yet. So not because I don't want to, I just haven't had time, lately, but
I'm kind of as I clean out my garage, I start putting stuff away, cleaning and hanging and doing that. So with this, we are still getting pounded with snow, and it is ridiculous. I think we got another foot these past couple nights, and I'm over it. I'm over it here.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of a November through February kind of guy, enjoying the snow. But once you get like mid-March, it's just too much.
Yeah. Ooh, you know what? You've actually said something that has jarred my thoughts here. I wanted to ask you before we get going too much. So you mentioned it's March. It's March 15th, and it is the first day of March Madness, the first real day, right? Not the playing games. So I know you're a big bracket guy. Have pumped your chest on this show in the past about your skill. Who do you got going all the way this year?
You want to know something? I have not even looked at it.
What?
I haven't looked at it, and yeah,
I mean, as much time as you spend online, you're telling me you haven't looked at a bracket?
No, I haven't looked at anything. And actually, at work today, in our conference room, there was Miami was playing. I don't know who ended up winning that, but they were only up by like 2.
Did they got
really?
Knocked off? Yeah.
Oh, they were up by 2 around 5 o'clock when I left. But yeah, I haven't looked. I know Virginia is on fire this year.
Yep, UVA, the number 1 seed.
Yeah, so, but no, I didn't fill out any brackets. And last year, yeah, that Yahoo poll, I was like in the top couple hundred in the nation.
Yeah. So,
and I didn't even look at it.
Well, so you didn't fill out a bracket, but let me put you on the spot. Who do you get? Who do you think's going to win it all? Go. You got to put your money on the table right now. Who do you got?
I couldn't even tell you like other top 10 teams.
Boy, this is getting
Virginia.
awkward.
I'm serious. I haven't even looked at it. I'll go with Virginia. Just because
that's
they're number
pretty
1.
Good. I mean, they're the number 1 overall seed, so you guess you can't go wrong.
That's the only thing I know right now.
Well, in my bracket, I took Kansas, so we'll see if either one.
What's Kentucky doing this year?
I think they were like mid-level seed, 8 or 9, maybe. I don't know, maybe a little higher than that. But that bracket, the way that they did it was bad because Arizona got undervalued. So they put Arizona as a 4 seed. So potentially Arizona and Kentucky could play each other in the second round, which stinks. But anyway, yeah, I was just curious to see who you had, and clearly not real plugged in, but all right. So let's talk hunting stuff. Number 1,
yes, sir.
First thing that we talk about when it comes to the off season. What's your first thing that you like to hit when it comes to killing off this time?
Well, this hasn't been a very important thing in the past, and it is now. I just got that new Beretta A300 straight black, and I cleaned it pretty much every time except once. The last goose hunt I went on of the season, everything was frozen. There's no, I didn't get any snow on it, no moisture, still had a couple little rust spots show up. So cleaned everything off and took it apart, cleaned it, and she's ready to go. Whatever I do, if I'm going to shoot some clays or do whatever I want to do. But that has been something where I have slacked horribly over the years. And this year, even with when I had the 391, I was cleaning that very often. And yeah, so that's my number 1 on my list. Taking apart your shotgun, cleaning it. Scott, who I hunted with up in Maine, put his gun away after one hunt and pulled it out. He said it was orange. So after I heard that, I did not want that to happen to my new gun. And I know, we talk about it in the group quite a bit, but a lot of guys, they might clean their gun once or twice a year. Other guys clean it after every hunt. Some guys don't clean it for a couple years. So it's kind of up to you, but it doesn't hurt. It does not hurt to clean your gun and take care of your equipment.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're a guy that doesn't like to clean your gun very often, the off season is a good time to get that good deep clean in, because a lot of guys actually make the mistake of trying to clean their gun too much in the season when it's really cold, and that oil and stuff that they might put on there gets gummed up with the cold temperatures and actually causes problems, particularly if they're using a semi-auto autoload or cycling gun. So I have pretty much designated during the season is I'll just spray the action with break free and run it through there. And then in the off season, I'll give it a good like full wipe down, but I haven't done that yet. I actually think that the off season for your shotgun is the best time. If you want to tinker with something, now's the time to do it. You know, choke tubes, ammo, whatever it is, you know, it's a great time to just go through some of that stuff and kind of see where you're at and see what you think. You know, a lot of guys make the mistake, in my opinion, during the season. Maybe you go to your local sporting goods store or something and you pick up whatever ammo's on sale and you shoot that and you really don't have any idea what that does, right? I mean, you have no idea how it patterns or any of that kind of stuff. I prefer to buy my shells in bulk. So I buy them by the case and then I just, you know, I'm shooting the same brand for the extended period of time. But if you don't do that, buy those boxes that you see regularly on sale at your store and shoot them all now on paper so you know what you're getting from those loads. So you may decide next year when that one particular brand is on sale, you're like, I'm going to pass on that one because I know it patterns like crap out of my gun. Or, you know, if I buy this, I know I got to use this particular choke because it patterns better at the distances that I'm expecting to shoot. Things like that. All of that, you know, little knowledge and stuff that you can gather. This is the time to do it because a lot of guys, I mean, not a lot of guys, every guy, myself included, has said, well, if we would have shot better, we would have killed more ducks, or we could have killed more ducks, or we could have limited out if we would have shot better. Every one of us is guilty of that. And that's always going to be true. You'll kill ducks if you can physically shoot better, but it becomes easier to shoot better if you stack the deck in your favor. So if you know you're shooting a load that patterns well with your gun and that choke combo, you're only going to increase your opportunities for success come next fall. So this is a great time to just collect that data, get yourself a little journal or something and write it all down so that you have it and you can refer to it, you know, come the fall.
Are you going to test out any new chokes this summer?
Negative. I'm happy with my Pattern Master long range. I have no plans changing it whatsoever.
Yeah, I had the Kicks long range, Kicks high flyer, and went to the Pattern Master. Just there's a big difference between the two, and I also will be, as much as I want to tinker around and play with it, I don't think I'm going to. I think I'll save my money and spend it somewhere else. But yeah, and on top of that, you know, testing new chokes and just, you know, you were talking about limiting out and stuff like that. You know, shooting some clays. That's also another thing you can do to you know, waste some time and really get better. And you almost owe it to the birds to do that and be efficient in your kills. So that is another one of my part one. Take your shotgun apart and clean it and get everything up and running, and you know, lock in that setup for the upcoming season.
Yeah, I think a lot of guys tend to disrespect the fact that it's shooting is a perishable skill, and if you don't practice, you're going to get worse. It's not like you can't sit out for a year and then just show up and pick up the gun and expect to shoot the same way you did at the end of last season. There's always kind of that break-in period. Maybe guys use dove season for that, or whatever. But the more you can shoot, the more trigger time you get, that's all going to just benefit you down the road. So shooting clays is a blast. Target ammo is cheap and it's fun. So yeah, the more you can do that, definitely get out there and shoot up them clays. All right. What else?
Moving forward, I think this is cleaning your shotguns should be done after your last hunt, just so you don't get any rust or corrosion on it. But I think one of the other things that you should do right away is take care of your waders. I think that's something that could get ruined really quick if you don't have it stored correctly. Yep. So, depending on what kind of waders you have, if you need to lay them flat or hang them or do whatever you need to do, but getting them dried out or, get the dirt off them, get them cleaned up and store them correctly check for leaks if you think you might have a leak, or, do any kind of testing you need to do there. I think that is probably something that should happen fairly quickly after your season ends.
So, for guys that don't know, how would you go about checking your waders for leaks?
There's a few different, putting them on, getting in a bathtub is one easy way to do it. Just don't wear, your undergarments that you usually do. I guess you could spray it down with a hose, anywhere that you can get water down through it. Some will turn a different color or a different coloration on the inside if there is water coming through. So if you just, dunk them in a, obviously close up the top hole, or don't dunk it all the way, but put it down in and feel around down there once it's dry and see if there's any wet spots.
Yep. And one way that I've done it is I will take the waders and turn them inside out. So you can turn most of them down at least inside out to where like the boot connects to the leg, right?
Mm-hmm.
You completely turn them inside out, and then you fill them with water. And I take a Sharpie or some sort of marker, and, obviously you look at the seams and stuff, and you'll see you'll see these little pinholes that freaking bring water in that soak you over a morning if you're standing in the water the whole time. And without that, like, there's no visual sign. You would never find that hole. So if you have that problem, either turn them inside out, or depending on what kind of soles and stuff you got in them, just fill them with water. Stand them up, like hook them to a heavy duty hanger or something, because it will have to be heavy duty because it gets heavy. Stand them up, fill them with water, and see where the water's leaking from. Circle that leak with the marker. Then once you drain them out and you dry them out, you know exactly where you need to patch. And I've saved waders by doing that. And it's worthwhile to do if you think you got a leak, or you're trying to get another season out of a pair and not spend a bunch of money or whatever. That's a good way to go about doing it.
Yeah, I like that. That's probably the best way.
Yeah. And sometimes, you could do the old like tire leak where you could spray some, mix like a real low mixture of water and dish soap or something, spray along the seams, see where air bubbles come out. If you can do that kind of stuff. I mean, there are ways to do it, but filling them with water is the most effective in my opinion.
Yeah. You're going to get that pressure and definitely push it out. So
yep.
That's a good call.
Yep. All right, man. What else are you doing?
I think one of my, especially lately with the kids and wife and like cold temperatures, I lose gloves and face masks and neck gaiters and hats like quicker than you can even imagine. So I think trying to like fill up my blind bag with all of my good hunting equipment like that, like my gloves and face mask, hats, etc. I think keeping that all in one place and kind of organizing in that way, because it's going to happen that you're trying to get ready the night before. I don't know why I wait so long, like before an opener, but I'm always looking for something. And I think this year, definitely getting a little more organized and preparing better now, so I know where all my stuff is later.
Yeah, that's huge. I've got like a locker basically in my basement that I bought it from like Home Depot or Lowe's, and it's basically like a wardrobe deal where I can put in there. I've got like a hanging section where I hang all my coats and stuff, and then I've got shelves in there where I put different stuff. And one shelf completely is hats, gloves, gaiters, that kind of stuff. And I always just work out of there. So after every hunt, I just put my stuff back in there because, some of my hunting gear actually overlaps, right? Like some of the stuff that I wear in waterfowl season, I'll wear for turkey season and so on and so forth. So, if I don't put it back in there, a pair of gloves that I'm looking for come early archery season are tucked into my turkey vest that's hanging up on the other spot. It's like, I'm chasing things around if I don't keep it. So I work out of that central locker and just, keep putting stuff in and out of there. And I'm definitely guilty of, I come home from a waterfowl hunt or something and I'm hanging my stuff up and I'm spreading everything out to dry. Like, you got to just figure out that system because, I've ended up losing gloves, buy a new pair, and then I turn around and I find those gloves again because they were in my archery pack that I didn't look at for 6 months or whatever. So definitely getting yourself organized and, figuring out what you got and where the gaps might be as far as your gears, your clothing gear and stuff is definitely important this time of year. Yeah.
And that's especially right now, I was plowed yesterday. So, I put on a lot of my duck hunting stuff, my Gore-Tex gear, because if it's snowing hard, I'm not trying to get soaked while I'm doing that. So I'll plow my driveway and my dad's, and then I come in and next thing I know, I can't find my gloves because my kids are trying to wear them outside and build a snowman or something. That just pain in the butt when you try and head out the door and you can't find anything. And now that after our last episode, another equipment organization that I'm going to be doing is putting a proper first aid kit together.
Ooh.
And kind of excited about that. I got the list up on our Facebook page, Facebook group, kind of just a summary of what we went over with Alex last week. And, probably a trip to Walmart to get most of the stuff, and whatever I can't find there, I'll order.
Yeah. You're not going to find a tourniquet and stuff there, I don't think.
Definitely not at our Walmart.
Yeah. No doubt. Cool. So, well, one of my favorite things to do literally all the time, but it's particularly bad in the off season, is evaluating my spread. And for me, it's not so much cleaning them or anything, that kind of stuff. I always just think about where can I add, right? What could I buy that would make it worthwhile and usable and all that good stuff. And, I can't tell you how many times I've written it out on paper and it's I've got, 3 dozen bluebills and 2 dozen canvasbacks and 3 dozen mallards and writing out all the decoys that I own. So I get an idea of what I have in inventory. And then I start looking around and figuring out, well, what could I add to it? 6 here, 6 there, and then I've got this little plan set up. And then all of a sudden a deal comes, a sales run and I'm buying something that I never even had on the list, but it's just such a good deal. You can't pass it up. So I find myself in the off season looking at that a lot, but it's one of those things where you have to evaluate, are you searching for something specific? Did I learn something last season that I feel could be addressed by making a purchase and adding to my decoy spread? Or am I just shopping for deals and looking to add numbers? Because everybody's bought decoys and they're it's not like I need more decoys, but I just bought them. You can always find a good deal if you're constantly hunting for it. I think it's important though to evaluate sort of what do I need versus what do I want? And, if you just jump at every sale that comes across the internet, you may run out of funds by the time, the stuff you actually need is available or whatever. So just kind of it's great to daydream and drool over the waterfowl catalogs. I mean, I'm as guilty as any on that, but sort of having a plan to if there's a particular issue or deficiency in your spread that you're looking to address.
Yeah, and I think something that I always am reminded of when I'm taking my camera out and trying to take pictures is that I need sleeper goose decoys. And what I mean by that, every time you pull up to them, and we talk about it all the time, if you have a very comfortable spread or comfortable goose, it can sleep there. Birds can feed if they're uncomfortable, but they're not going to sleep if they're uncomfortable. And every time I pull up or walk around, those birds start walking away, and I'm like, man, I need to get sleepers for my spread. Mm-hmm. And that's always something that's on my mind. So,
yep, me too. I need to do that too.
I think about it every hunt too, and I'm just I don't know. I need to pull the trigger, and I almost did. I think Tangle Free had a bunch of them on sale, and those they sold out so quick, and I don't think they're back in stock yet. So, definitely something I'd look for. And my dad is a big garage sale type guy, so he's always on the lookout for those. I think, going back to evaluating your spread is a good time to clean them up, get the mud off, any decoys. I live in a wet area, so whenever we put decoys out, they're always caked with mud, and it just feels good to clean them up, put them away. I mean, not that season's over, it doesn't feel good, but
it doesn't feel that good.
No. Well, I don't know. I've turned a leaf lately. Like, my truck's clean, getting more organized. I don't know what's going on with me, but I feel like, lately it's been very gratifying to really take care of my stuff. So, but like you were saying too, check for damaged ones. You hunt over the foam filled decoys, so you might have some keel issues, but as far as holes, you don't worry about that too often.
This year I found more decoys in my spread had gotten shot than any other year, all the other years combined. For whatever reason, we are just shooting decoys this year.
Just getting peppered. I think another thing, I've never done it, but if you're looking to upgrade your spread, upgrade your decoys, is learning how to flock. And there was a guy that put a couple videos up in our listeners group that went through everything, and I think he actually did Harlequin decoys. He flocked them, and they look good. So, so that's something if you want to waste some time and do little arts and crafts, and could definitely get a little upgrade there.
Yeah, flocking, if you want to get into carving or painting or anything like that, great time to get started with some of that.
And that's another, we talked about it before, but you find some old goose decoys, old floaters at a yard sale, something like that. There's so many videos online, and you get three cans of spray paint, and you can have them looking really nice. So, don't overlook that if you're trying to upgrade or increase your spread numbers.
Or if you're just getting started and you're looking at the price of decoys and you're like, holy crap, like, how does anybody afford this? It takes time to build your spread, but to increase that build cycle time, if you can cash in on like a Craigslist or a yard sale deal, man, don't overlook anything. You may see a pile of junk decoys that someone's got like, $5 sticker on at a garage sale. Don't overlook those, because they may not be lost, and they could be a great start for you.
No doubt. Do you utilize any coot decoys?
Coot? No. I do
That's
not.
another thing. A good confidence decoy, if you do find some not so quality decoys that you just want to mess around with, paint them black and put a white bill on it, and you have some good confidence decoys there. So,
Yep, no doubt.
I was going to say, another thing that I've been seeing online quite a bit is people cleaning out wood duck boxes.
Yep.
And that's a thing. Our local Delta does them around here, and I think it was 2 years ago I got in, and we made quite a few of them, put them up around the lake and a couple local ponds. So that's definitely something that you can get into. I think Delta has the blueprints. Ducks Unlimited might too, but the proper measurements and the way to assemble them so they're easy to clean out. That's a good resource to go and look up and put them together the right way, because if you just nail everything together and then try and clean them out, it's going to be a little more difficult than having a way to open them up.
Yeah, and doing that is a great project for, if you got kids that you want to get outside and all that kind of stuff. Doing that sort of stuff is great for a kid. So good way to introduce them to the outdoors. You mentioned Delta and NDU. I know a lot of chapters have spring banquets and stuff. So this is a really good time of year to reach out to your local DU chapter and just kind of see, kind of take the temperature of the chapter and see what's going on and see if it's something that you might want to be involved with. I wish I had time to be more involved with our local chapter. I just don't have it right now. But, you meet a lot of great guys, and gals for that matter, just people that are like-minded like you, into hunting, into the outdoors. It's a great place if you got kids and you want to expose them. The youth events and stuff are awesome. Some of the youth events don't even have anything to do with ducks. They like, you go fishing and, do these other things. And yeah, they're not thinking about duck hunting, but like they're thinking, oh, that Delta event that we went to was a lot of fun because we got to do this. And maybe that's all it takes to get your kid back out there to do it again or do something similar to that. And then, then you're off to the races. So definitely check that out. And those are really good resources. And, those, I've never met a chapter that's not looking for more help. They could always use more people. So, if you got some time to spare, definitely give your local DU and local Delta chapters a look.
Yeah, and there again, that goes back to just a sense of accomplishment. If you can, get up some wood duck boxes or mallard nests and that you're helping in some way, then, it just feels good and gets you more involved in the summertime. So that's good stuff.
Yep. What else?
I think something that we see way too often and people just get ripped apart for it is, what duck is this that I shot?
Yep.
So not only is the ID not taking place before the shot, but not knowing the ID after the shot is becoming quite a problem. And I understand there's a lot of ducks, but there's really no excuse not to put time and effort into knowing what you're harvesting. And one thing that, I just posted this on our Facebook page and our group, but the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has a bird ID in flight little simulator, and you can test, just your local area. You can, I think there's 3-second test, a 6-second test, and I'm guessing 9. I didn't look at that, but it gives you a short clip of birds in flight. And if you're new to the sport, it is excellent, because even if you go through there and get everything wrong, then the next time you go through it, you pick up little things like wing color, or something like that, just the speed of the wings flapping, and just going and testing yourself. Work on yourself as a hunter and really, really know what that bird is that you're pulling the trigger on. And I think that's a huge, huge opportunity to just get better in the field.
Yeah, I think a lot of guys that struggle with duck identification aspire to be better. They just don't know how to get better. They just think that the only way they're going to get better is by sitting in a duck blind during hunting season and watching ducks fly around. Unfortunately, that's not going to do it for you with any kind of expedited process. You know what I mean? Yeah, you'll get better at identifying the ducks that you see commonly, but like that simulator you're talking about, you can expand that to every dabbling duck, every diver duck, sort it by region. It's a really cool little thing that they've done. And I think that this is in a direct response to the fact that there wasn't really something like this out there available. And I could tell you, it gets really easy to identify these beautiful, like crisp images of ducks floating, like, in the water that you see on these identification apps. But you put one in the air, flying at top speed with some cloud cover, and, it gets a little more difficult if it's not a duck with like a real glaring, identifier about it. So definitely a great way to test that, skill level and build on it. And, again, I think it's one of those things where as a hunter, particularly duck hunters, this is a challenge that we face that is probably unique to us to some extent. And maybe if you're just out to kill, like, you don't care. And I that's not what we do. And I actually enjoy being able to identify at a distance, like, what kind of duck that is. Like, it adds to the hunt to me. Like, knowing the excitement that, oh, we've got teal circling us, or, oh, those are cans right there, like that builds an excitement that just as I'm saying, oh, there's a duck. Like I have no idea what it is, but it's like working, you know what I mean? It's just not as exciting to me. So it's almost like another element to solve the puzzle. And, if you're identifying what these ducks are, maybe you can employ a different strategy to work them more effectively, depending on what the species are and that sort of thing. So, again, if you're looking for something to fill the off season with, that's a pretty good one to go after.
I will say the one downside, and I don't even know if I'd call it a downside, because you still get a very decent image even with the 3-second test, but everything is from an aerial view.
Yeah,
so some of
all
them,
overhead.
Yeah. So I mean, some of them are easier than others. Some are pretty far away, and the plane or the helicopter, whatever they're in, is kind of backing away, and they're in a cornfield, and it's really tough to see. So that might be one downside. But what is it? The McMaster ID book? Is that right? Is that the name of it?
Yes.
The one that has all the bill lengths. So even,
if the LeMaster or something.
LeMaster, that's right.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. So that one, it has your bill sizes, and definitely after you kill something, you can identify it with that book, which is great. But still, you're trying to accomplish the goal of knowing what you're shooting at before you do it. And especially, some of the stuff that's being talked about right now, the Atlantic Flyway, the mallard limit might be cut down, and our days might be cut down. So if they're watching it that closely, you don't want to be shooting the wrong birds and end up getting a nice little hefty fine when you're walking back to your truck. So I think that, it's easy, it's free, it's fun. Just go and test yourself and help yourself out a little bit.
Yeah, that LeMaster book is good too, because it not only talks about and allows you to compare the bill size, but it'll actually give you general dimensions on male and female of the different species of birds. It'll talk to you about where they tend to fly, if they're more of like a fly on the water, if they fly high, the speculum and stuff, like it gives you little hints and little key things. And again, all you need to do is identify that one thing that's going to help you identify that bird in flight and hang on to it. Right. So whatever that thing is, the more you can learn about that duck, the better chance you have of finding that thing and allowing you to just ID it better when you see it in the field. So definitely time well spent for sure.
Yeah. And I think, as far as making yourself a better hunter, I think, you mentioned going out and seeing birds while you're in the blind, opening day, stuff like that. Go out to your areas that you're allowed to hunt, or your, private areas or public land, and go out and watch the birds in the summertime. And that'll help you, take your binos out, try and learn, during the off season. So, doing that. And then you can also figure out if you need to put a blind up, or you can start taking different material out to build a blind. I think there's a lot of things that can happen if you go out and spend the time that you should be spending out there.
Yep. The last thing I'll add too, about working on yourself as a hunter, and this kind of leads back to the whole Delta and DU thing, but in the world that we live in, there's plenty of people that would like to see hunting go away, and a lot of things about, the outdoor lifestyle that we all enjoy. So whether you want to be or not, each and every one of us that's a duck hunter is an ambassador for the sport of duck hunting. So when you're out and you've got that Delta or DU sticker on your truck, or you're wearing your brand new fancy HP Outdoors hat, people are going to know that you're a waterfowl hunter. And, that's something that should be taken seriously, because, not only are you likely to, meet a guy like me who will literally approach you if you've got a DU hat on or a Delta hat and be like, hey man, you waterfowl hunter? Cool. Shoot the breeze a little bit. How's your season going? But you're going to get people that are also not a fan of you shooting those pretty ducks that they see down on the pond and stuff like that. So being able to tactfully handle those situations, and particularly in today's, society where things are as divisive as ever. It's always good to be prepared to be a positive, ambassador for our sport and for the lifestyles that we care about. So, I always think that that's a responsibility that we, tend to overlook and that we all carry, whether we want it or not. You carry that with you. So think about what you can do, to present duck hunting and waterfowl hunting in a better light, should you have the opportunity to do it. It's not like it takes a lot of effort or time, but just sort of think about those things that, the things that we hold on to as duck hunters, right? Because we go out in the worst weather, the worst times of the year, cold, whatever the conditions, we're out there. And we do it because we each have that one thing, at least one thing, that we hang on to that makes it worth it every time. Every single time, no matter if we pull the trigger or not, it's worth it. And whatever that is that you've grabbed onto, that's what you need to convey to someone who doesn't understand. I mean, I know every single person listening to this show has been asked this question. I don't understand why you get out of bed so early to go sit out in the cold and do that, right? Nobody understands that. And everyone listening to the show absolutely understands why we do that, right? And it's learning how to convey and communicate that message to the general public that's going to win, more times than not. So sometimes it's hard to do. Sometimes it's impossible to do. But that doesn't mean it's not a worthwhile effort should you get the opportunity to do it.
I agree. Well said. I think maybe one last thing about working on yourself as a hunter is working on your calling. And I think that's just a personal goal for a lot of people.
Yep.
But,
big one.
And I even find myself in this and, just getting better every year and getting the flow down and whatnot. But, I have one note here to the Bad Grammar DVD is just, if you're looking to really get into goose calling and learning how to run a call properly, I don't know if there's a better resource out there than that DVD.
Yeah, I think that DVD is one of the, if not the best. And, I think the thing that's important to remember about this too is you've got several months now before the season starts. So I know a lot of new guys new to the sport pick up a goose call. They get like a $20 one at Dick's Sporting Goods or Walmart or wherever they get it. And then they immediately get discouraged because it doesn't sound like what they think it's supposed to sound like. And then they get the Bad Grammar DVD and they still can't get it to work. Like, I'm telling you right now, like, your expectations should not be that you're going to turn into, Scott Trinan or Kelly Powers in 2 weeks, right? But I can guarantee you'll never be those guys if you don't put any time in on the call. And you don't want to be practicing when you're working birds into the spread, right? So nobody that's in your truck cabin when you're riding by yourself or, singing to the steering wheel, nobody in there is going to care if you sound terrible. But all your buddies are going to care if you're in the goose blind and you sound terrible. So, that's the time. Burn them up, make it, for me, goose calling's been weird because it's like, my progressions have been slow, but when they happen quick. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but I'll feel like I'll call the same way for a long period of time. And then one day, as I'm trying to do a particular note or something, I'll do something that just seems to make it easier. And it's not like I'm trying to do it. It just sort of happens. Like that muscle memory builds to the point where I can get it to like what my mind thinks I'm supposed to be doing. My mouth and my tongue actually do it. And I'm like, oh, wow, that felt like a lot easier. And it gave me the sound that I wanted. And then from then on out, you could replicate it. I would have never got to that point if I hadn't continued to just push that feet, and that's where those videos come into play because they will tell you what it's supposed to feel like. The first time you do it, it's not going to feel like that. It takes practice and it takes time. But if you have that mental image in your mind of what that feeling is supposed to be, when you actually hit it, you'll be like, bam, that was it. Like, that's what they were talking about. And then you'll get it. And it's just like it clicks and then you can move on to the next one. So, don't get frustrated. Don't get frustrated. It's not it's not super easy to blow a short read goose call at a really high level. Once you figure it out and you've got your basics down, you can definitely build quickly. But to get that to that point, it's not easy, especially if you don't have like a mentor that sits with you and works with you and that kind of thing. Like if you're doing it on your own, it can be challenging and it can be very frustrating. So, spending time doing it in the off season is good. If you're ticked off at the call and you're frustrated, put it down for a day, put it down for a week. You got that kind of time, but don't put it down for 6 months and then pick it up in September and think that it's going to be any better, because it's not.
Yeah, and I think, even if you walk around a waterfowl festival or any kind of expo, there's guys picking up calls and it sounds like a straight kazoo, and then there's guys that are, really good callers. So just put the time in, like you said, and that bad grammar, you wouldn't think about some of the things like just how you should move your jaw and, and all kinds of different little tips that will definitely help you out. So I think that's a good one. I think another thing that we get a lot of questions on, and, I guess I gauged a lot of the questions on our group because there are a lot of newer guys in there and they aren't afraid to ask questions, but there's a lot of photography and not so much videography, but a lot of photography questions. And I think that the off season, if you want to get really good, either dog pictures or your hunting buddy or, the trophy shots or birds in flight, whatever you want to do, now's the time to start. If you just got a camera or if you're looking to buy a camera, now's the time to get it. And really, there's nothing that is going to help you more than hitting that shutter button, getting the clicks out of it and just learning how the camera works and all the functions of it. So I think that you have a little something to talk about here that you're excited about, right?
Yeah, I'm fully switching over to the Sony full frame mirrorless game. I've been into mirrorless photography for a long time. Well, not a long time, but for a while. And I'd been a Fuji shooter up, and I love my Fuji camera. I love Fuji film gear. But I had just gotten, that full frame disease in my mind that just wouldn't let go. So when the Sony A3 was announced and I saw the specs and the price point, I said, okay, now's the time. I got to do it. Go to full frame. So I'm doing that. So I've got one pre-ordered, and I'm really excited about it because, I know it's not going to, again, as I've kind of talked about on the show, I got mental challenges with a lot of things, right? Lanyards, calls, we've talked about all this crap. But, I don't think that I'm going to become an infinitely better photographer because I have a full frame camera that I'm using now. But in my mind, I will know that is no longer a limitation. So I will feel like I can do more. And maybe that'll, prompt me to take my camera more, take more pictures. SD cards are free, pictures are free. They're not free, but you buy them and you're not developing film. So like, there's no reason to just not go out there and click. And it's like, it doesn't matter what you're taking pictures of, your kids or your dog or your family, or, you see some flower, whatever it is. Like, all of these things build your knowledge around how a camera operates and will allow you to take better pictures, in the waterfowl, woods or field, whatever. But, a lot of guys want to know, well, how I want to start taking good pictures. They see them on Facebook, they see the stuff you're putting out there, and they're like, man, that's awesome. Like, I'd love to have pictures of myself or my experiences that I could look back on. And, yeah, you can get great pictures by turning your camera on auto and mashing the shutter button. But if you're really trying to tell the story, right, of what's happening that day in the field, or that picture that you take, if you're really trying to communicate the feel of that picture, you need to know how that camera works to be able to manipulate it in a way that allows you to convey this message that you're trying to capture. So one of the things that I would recommend you do is take a picture of a situation, whether it be a person or whatever, and put the camera on auto, right? And take a picture and see what the camera thinks is the best settings for that scenario. And when you look at that image, you think about, okay, how would I tell this story differently, right? So if it's like somebody holding a duck, for example, like how would I tell this story differently? Do I want to highlight the duck? Do I want to highlight the smile on that person's face? Do I want to highlight the fact that the dog is beside them staring up at that duck? Like what is the story that you're trying to tell there? How would you highlight it? And what do you need to do with the camera to accomplish that? And that's really the end game, being able to connect the two. The camera is just a tool, right? Any camera can take great pictures if you know how to use it. And that's the big challenge. So there's a million YouTube videos out there. There's lots of resources. Dan and I both love talking cameras. We've got great photographers in the waterfowl group. There are a lot of people out there that love to talk about this stuff and are more than willing to share. So if you're into it, get a camera, jump in and find out what it is that, that you need to know about that gear to get it done. Because just like, people talk about hunting with the dog is a different experience and, wouldn't do it without that. And hunting with your kids is another experience and all of these things. Being able to capture the hunt with photography and video and this happens to me a lot because I'll be like surfing through my old hard drives and I'll be looking at pictures and I'll come across a picture that from a hunt that I remember like it was yesterday when I look at that picture. I'm like, oh, I can still smell the air that morning on what it smelled like. I could still feel that wind hitting, it pulls you right back to that moment. And it's so cool. So awesome. It's almost to the point where when I look at other people's photos, I'm like, oh man, I feel it, right? Like, what they're trying to convey, like, that feeling. And, it's just another element of the hunt that can be incredibly defined throughout the off season.
Well said. Very well said. All right. I think, so definitely a great time to learn all that is the downtime, and you can get those shots. And I'm just thinking about shots in my head now that I would like to get next season now that you mentioned some of the things. But anyway, we'll keep moving on. I think one of the more fun things to do is start planning a trip out of state. If that's something that you're thinking about doing, do it yourself hunt or with a guide or whatever you may be doing, or friends or whatever you want to do. But, the earlier the better usually to get started. You can get everything in order. Flights are cheaper, and that just builds a lot of an excitement for a trip. If you're talking to your buddies and just, are you taking this? Are you taking that? And, it does help pass the time of the off season. So I think we better be going a few places together this year, but, that's something that I'm looking forward to now that the season is out, is planning next year.
Yeah, it's always fun. And, I've planned trips that I don't have a date of when I'm actually going to go on them, but like I've got so much literature from all these different states where I can hunt that, I familiarize myself with their laws and their regulations and their seasons and things like that. Should the opportunity come up, like the learning curve's already there. So like, I'm always looking and always trying to learn more about different places to hunt. So even if it's a place that you don't think that you're actually going to be able to hunt this season, if at any point you'd ever like to go to Arkansas and hunt the flooded timber, or you'd like to go out to the West Coast and hunt, wherever it is, look into it. Just see what it would take. Get an idea. And that way, maybe something that, you thought was not a reality or not going to be possible ever. Maybe it's not as impossible as what you thought it was going to be, but you never know until you look into it. So that's just kind of my thing. There's hunts that you're going to go on, and then there's hunts that you'd like to go on. You'll never know or ever actually go on those hunts that you'd like to go on if you don't take that first step. Right. So.
Right. And if you start planning it out right now and you think, I have, maybe I want to go in December, I have 9 months, if you start saving a little bit of money every month, like you have it paid for, and you're not getting that little sticker shock when you start trying to find a flight 2 weeks out. So start putting a little money away here and there, and maybe selling something and putting that towards your trip. It really, if you're going with friends or, get in our group and we have a state breakdown of people that are willing to hunt with other members, which is a very large group. A $300 flight might be the only thing that you're paying for besides a license and ammo, unless you take it. But, the opportunities are out there if you want to take advantage of it.
Yep, for sure. So another thing that, always comes up in the off season is getting kids involved. And I don't think we need to belabor this, because we just did this on an episode with, Brady a couple weeks ago. So if you haven't seen that or listened to that episode, definitely check that out. But, pretty much anything that you're doing in the off season, if you've got kids, you can get them involved, and whether it's going to a DU Green Wing event or going to your local lake or pond and getting the canoe out and going fishing or something like that, anything that you can do to get your kids outside and outdoors is only going to, foster their drive to live an outdoor lifestyle. So, having fun with them outside is an awesome experience. And, as I've always said, the more I can get my son involved to do stuff with me, the more that I can, go do it and not have to feel bad about being away from home and all that kind of stuff. Because my wife's like, if you take Taylor with you, you go do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, not even your own kids, but if you're an uncle or an aunt and have the opportunity to take out kids that might not have parents that take those children out.
Yep.
That's just that's a bonus in the hunting side book. So definitely keep that in mind if you have room and the ability to do that. So,
and one other thing real quick about that I didn't mention is, waterfowl hunting show, of course, but turkey hunting is a great opportunity to get kids involved. Usually temperatures are more mild. You can set up ground blinds. They get more freedom of movement. A thundering gobbler is really awesome and exciting. So, if you've been looking for that perfect hunt to maybe get your kid out and exposed to, turkey hunting might not be a bad option here coming up this spring.
Yep. And then even something I really enjoyed was just shooting pigeons at local farms when I was younger. That was always a good time to do that, and then kind of get you ready for, if you get out in a dove field at all too, that's just a good time and a lot of fun to do. So, I think one more thing I had, which there's so many things to do. I think we could, talk about dogs for a really long time too, but we'll leave that for future episodes with Barton. But, one thing that I really, really, really want to get into more is expanding my recipe book.
That's a big one.
There's so many recipe books out there and so many guys online that really put a beautiful plate together. That I need to take advantage of it more. The bacon wrapped and the jalapeno poppers, stuff like that. They're good, but if you're trying to impress someone or, expand your palate with a wild game, that's something that I need to take advantage of more.
Yeah. I mean, that's, I'm sure I'm like a lot of people. I got a freezer full of goose meat right now. And if I had more recipes that I could do, I would, eat a lot more of it than I do. And, the Hank Shaw books, everyone, and admittedly, I don't own Duck Duck Goose. I should. I will. I just don't currently.
I got Duck Duck Goose.
Yeah. I don't own that. I need to buy it. Everyone that I've ever talked to about that book raves about it. So definitely something I need to address. But, it's as the weather warms up, people are, out there on their green eggs and smokers and doing all these things. I wish I could, I wish I had a better repertoire with my, my waterfowl harvests that I could, bring to the table.
And there's really nothing wrong with what our normal thing is taking all that meat and getting hot sticks and bologna and breakfast sausage. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But, the last time I was down in Eastern Shore with you and I brought some of those canvas backs back, oh my goodness gracious. I pan-seared some of that with some horsey sauce, and dude, it was one of the best meals I ever cooked in my life. So
yep, good eating.
It was there's definitely some spots to expand there.
Yep, no doubt. Well, I mean, we've been going for about an hour or so here, and I think that's a pretty good list. And I think my biggest thing about the off season is, don't waste it, right? I mean, not waste it like literally, but like, just, you can use the time to you can fill the time with quality outdoor type, duck hunting type activities. And don't think that just because season's not in that you can't spend time doing those things. And, there was something that I saw on Facebook the other day, and I can't remember who posted it, and I'm not even sure exactly where it was from, but it was Willie Robertson from Duck Commander. And I think it was at like a National Wildlife, National Turkey Federation Wildlife, whatever they're called, the NWTF banquet. And I don't know if it was this year or a past year, but he was giving a speech up on the stage. And the whole idea about the speech was, his message was build something. And not literally, but figuratively, build something within your life that's positive and is valued and is good. And of course he, had a list of things that he rattled off that, could be that type of, thing. But man, when he said build something, it just didn't resonate with me. And I was like, man, taking the time, like hunting season to me is a blur. It's like you go from work to weekends to early mornings to, long days, and you're just worn out. And before you know it, it's over. Right. And I look back on that time and I'm like, man, I had a blast, but it felt like it lasted 2 seconds. In the off season, it's like, dog days of summer and all of these things. And it's like, I feel like that is the time when you can slow down a little bit and just take the time to build something, whatever that is. Maybe it's a tighter relationship with your kid, and maybe it's, going, me and my kid like to go fishing, and we go fish for bluegill. We catch a bunch of them, and that's our thing, and we love it. And, that's something that we've built. And I'd like to build more things like that, and the more you can build in your life that are positive and that are waterfowl centric, I don't see a bad thing. I think back a lot about, our interview that we had with Brady and a couple weeks ago, and just the way that he talks about the activities that his family does and the way that he was raised and the things that they value. I'm like, man, that guy's built something, and that's that, no, not figuratively or not literally, but that figurative, thing that you can build in your life. And, I think he's a pretty good example of someone who's done that. So, take a look at your situation and think about something that you might be able to do, to build something positive in your life and something that you can enjoy, and whether that's just by yourself or with your family or whatever it is. But, take that time that we have now and use it to be productive, I guess.
Yep. You're on point tonight.
I don't even know what that means.
Just there's I'm speechless, just no words to follow up with there. So I think it's good stuff, man. I think it's I'm over the snow, so I'm looking forward to some warmer weather and sunny days and, some beach time for sure around here. But,
yeah, buddy.
Definitely looking forward to next hunting season, and this is a good way to spend that time. So I liked our conversation tonight, and we'll keep on keeping on.
Yep, it's 11:45 p.m. I'm going to be up at 5:30 a.m., so I think I've seen about enough of this today. How about you?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's going to do it for episode 74. This week brought to you by Lifetime Decoys. We also appreciate the support of 737 Duck and Goose Calls and Big Al Silhouette Decoys. Please support the companies that support us. If you haven't caught up on all the past episodes, you can do so iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, all of the great podcast outlets out there. And we will be back with you next week with a brand new topic. So for Dan, I'm Josh. Take care.